Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I'm your host Stan Rattan and this is the Blue Collar Wine Program. And today we're going to look at Zinfandel. The reason I'm looking at Zinfandel is it is a gorgeous day outside, and it always, when it gets sunny like this, I start thinking about barbecuing, and the first wine that comes to my mind when it comes to barbecuing is Zinfandel. Zinfandel is just such a perfect wine for barbecued chicken, barbecued ribs, steaks, anything, hamburgers. Maybe you want to do a pizza and then have a little picnic outside. Zin is just such a great wine for all those occasions. And I consume a fair amount of Zin throughout the summer. I know there's some people out there that kind of, stick their nose up at Zin. I have no idea why. It's such a good wine. I know there's a fairly, we call him ivory tower critic. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. But he writes for a national magazine, and he will not review Zinfandel because he doesn't like it. And I don't know. Everybody has their opinions, but I can't even imagine being in the wine world and not enjoying Zinfandel. Now, I grant it, for some people the alcohol content is too high. Shout out to Frank. He tried a Zin at my birthday party last year, and he said he liked it. So he actually found a Zin that he likes. And I know there's some Zins they get goopy, jammy, they're the way they're built, but even for me, even those are good sometimes. So we're going to look at three different Zinfandels, two from Sonoma County, which they plant a lot of Zin there, and one, of course, from Lodi, which is kind of famous for Zinfandel. So let's get started right off. The first one I'm going to do is a fairly well-known producer, Seghesio. They've made it. Their Zin has made it in the top 100 wines in the Wine Spectator many times. And this is a 2012 Sonoma County Zinfandel, and this rolls in at $24. There you go. You're probably familiar with that label. And this is one of the Zins we had in our blind wine tasting group yesterday. I went down to Seattle, and it was led by two master sommeliers. And we tasted this Zin. I actually thought it was a Grenache. I was really humbled at that event. I mean, tasting them blind, there's so many different things you have to go through in deducing what's in the wine, and all that. So, it's difficult. Some of them I got, some of them I didn't. I actually thought this might have been a Grenache. Turned out to be a Zin. Now, the interesting thing about Zinfandel is the clusters, when they grow, they ripen unevenly. And depending on the producer as to how carefully they sort them on the table, you may actually get some green elements in a Zinfandel. But if they sort them and get all those green berries out of there, of course, you're going to get a much richer style of a Zinfandel. So this has a lot of raspberry. I get a load of raspberry, currants, even a little bit of a cola element. There's a little bit of anise character on this one. I even get a little bit of an herbal component coming through. But just lots of raspberries and currants on this nose. Let's see what we get on the palate. So what threw me off on this wine yesterday was that Grenache has a lot of strawberry in it. I realize that, but this has kind of a red fruit component going on. The raspberry, of course, and the red currants. There's just a hint of blue fruit on this, I believe I'm getting. But it's a lighter style Zin. It isn't your big jammy Zin, and it has just a hit of spice on the backside, which Grenache is famous for its spice. But also, the thing that came to me in that class was that when you do a blind tasting on a sommelier level, they only serve wines that are typical for the region. In other words, they wouldn't serve you Grenache from California, which I thought this might have been. No, they just serve Grenache from either the Rhone Valley in the Old World, or Spain in the Old World, or Australia in the New World. And I had no idea that Grenache was so popular in Australia, because I don't believe I've ever had one. But they do it a lot there, and of course you get a lot of eucalyptus notes on the Grenache, and that's why it couldn't have been a Grenache. I learned something new. So this has a lot of that raspberry, red currant. It doesn't go jammy on you. This has got a lot of restraint for a Zinfandel. I get that little bit of that dried herbal component, on that. I like this Zin. It's got the control on it, which those who really are against Zin, who hate the big jammy stuff, you might actually like this one, because it definitely has the restraint on it. I'm just going to grab a little white card here just to get the color. And of course Zin, this is a little lighter in color. It's a red color for sure. So yeah, I mean, this is a great Zin. Really well built. Would be perfect with barbecue chicken. Would be perfect with barbecued ribs, hamburgers, anything like that. I mean, it's definitely got enough fruit to keep a lot of people happy. I get the licorice on the backside of that. But it also has a restraint that if you don't like a big jammy Zin, this has good acid on it actually, which is typical of Sonoma County. The acidity on a Zin. A lot of people don't associate acidity with Zin, but they do. And this would be a moderate to moderate plus acidity. It actually is making my mouth water on the backside. Like the Zin, I'm going to give this a B+. Really nice effort from Seghesio. Let's move on to the next one. Now we're going to go for kind of an iconic Zinfandel producer, Ridge. They're a great winery. They're located in Healdsburg, which is right on the edge of the Dry Creek Valley. This is from Lytton Springs in Sonoma County. Ridge, Lytton Springs, Zinfandel, and it breaks down as 82% Zin, 16% Petit Syrah, 2% Carignan. And it says Dry Creek Valley, which is a sub-appellation of Sonoma. So there you go. You're probably very familiar with this label. This rolls in at $40. So nothing to sneeze at as far as price goes. I've been kind of excited to try this. It's been a while since I've tried the Ridge Zinfandel. Not something I go to all the time. If I want to have a picnic or a barbecue out in the backyard, $40. Maybe if I'm doing it by myself. Very interesting on the nose. Kind of stinky, actually. And I've had these open for a little bit. Definitely got black currants. But there's just a stink element there, which has got my curiosity up. Now, as far as the color, this one is a little darker in color than the Sonoma, the Seghesio. Not a lot, but yeah, definitely darker in color, a little more on the ruby red side. I get an herbal component on this, a little bit of herbal element, but more of the currant licorice thing going on. It actually is fairly subdued on the nose with a little dusty element coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. Black licorice, black currants, dark cherries. There's an herbal component coming through, good acidity. There's that beam of acidity underneath. The fruit, of course, is a little bigger. I would venture to say these guys probably spend more time on the sorting table getting the green berries out of there. I really like the violet component on this one. For whatever stink was on the nose, it's actually blowing off a little bit even now. But this is a much bigger Zin than the Seghesio, And price doesn't always drive that, but it definitely has the acid. It's a really nice Zin because it has the acidity backing up this bigger, darker fruit flavors with a little bit of violets going on. I'm getting a little violet action on that, which is really curious. A lot of red flower elements coming through on the backside, which I like. This is what they call a very, very kind of elegant, big Zin. This is nice stuff. I mean, again, perfect for barbecue chicken, you know, ribs, hamburgers, pizza. There's a nice tannic hit on the backside, you know, which is really interesting. I like that a lot. I mean, it's got a little bit of a grip, so it's like got some sturdiness to it. This puppy would lay down. It's a 2011. You could lay this down for 5 years, not even worry about it. It's going to mellow out a little bit. The acid will give way to the fruit. I like it. You know, it's interesting. I read an article where somebody said that, you know, Zinfandel, you know, is it have acid? And yes, so in Sonoma County, definite moderate to moderate plus acid. This one is a good example of that. Good acidity. For those of you who kind of turn your nose up at Zin, this is a nice effort. This is a nice effort, both of them. I'm going to give the Lytton Springs an A-. I think it's a better Zin than the Seghesio, but, you know, maybe A-. Absolutely. Let's move on to the next one. I went to this one last because you usually go to driest to fruitiest. Generally, that's the direction I like to go. Because if you do a real big wine, this is from Lodi. This is Zin. I believe it's from Vinted and bottled by Terra Divina Vineyards, Grayton, California. Sorry, guys. Lodi, which again is very famous for producing some big, heady Zinfandels. This rolls in at $16, so by far the bigger value of the three. Let's see what we get on the nose. Now, this is kind of weird, but a lot of times on Zinfandel, and I don't know why it is, maybe it's just me, but I get a little like a clam, you know, like clamshell thing going on. Currants and dark cherries punching through there. A lot of black licorice. A little bit of vanilla. Probably a little bit of oak usage on this. I'm getting a little bit of that vanilla action coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. Okay, so this is more of that big kind of chocolatey, black currant, dark cherry. I'm getting a little bit of interesting like green tea component underneath, which would be part of that, you know, uneven cluster. But the fruit is big enough that it's just barely there, but it makes it interesting for sure. Yeah, this is one of those what you call a fun Zin. This is like, got a lot of dark fruits. It's not too bad. There's acid there. It's not like super goopy like Smucker's Jam. You know, take a scoop of Smucker's Jam. It doesn't go there. Has nice balance, but it's still got that nice, bigger, rounder, you know, softer shoulder fruit than the other two. I get a little white pepper on the very back end of this wine. This is the kind of Zin that a lot of Zin lovers like. If you're really into those, you know, bigger styles, then this is the way to go. $16. You know, that's pretty good value. Yeah, nice balance. Like I said, it doesn't go over the top fruit. You know, you know, I like it. I think it's a really good effort for Zinfandel. This might be one of those ones that somebody says, well, I think it's a little too jammy. I don't think so. Good acid, nice spice, good fruit, excellent balance, excellent job. I'm going to go B+, A- on this one. I think it's the second best of the three. I like the Ridge a lot, but for $16, I'm going to go A- for sure. But B+, A-, good effort. You know, and just a reminder, you know, when you're thinking barbecue, think Zinfandel. And you don't have to spend this much money to get a good Zin. I think a couple episodes ago, I tasted the Montoya, which runs about $12. Excellent Zinfandel. But these three efforts are really good. If you want to spoil yourself just a little bit, one day to spoil yourself, go for that. Go for the Lytton Springs. Great effort and good acid. Great food wines. Like Zinfandel, one of my favorite wines. In fact, if I go to my wine rack, I can't ever find one because I always end up drinking them too quickly. I like them. It's when I'm sitting in front of TV watching a good movie. I love to uncork a Zin. Great stuff. Hey, thanks for watching. Cheers, and here's to keeping the snob out of wine.